Welcome back to Salam Media. That was a short break, but Kolani, they're giving me heads up. We're going to be heading to France right now, specifically in Paris, in Paris. I will be chatting to Lina Hadid. Lina is joining us via StreamYard. Lina, welcome to Salam Media and welcome to South Africa. We're very, very pleased to have you join us today.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm
Hmm.
honored, always honored to work with anyone in South Africa. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. We're also honored to have you join us. Before we go any further, just tell us a bit about yourself. I know, to many, the last name Hadid might be a very, familiar one, but who's Lina and what does Lina do?
So Lina is an American-Palestinian from the capital of the United States of America. I have been a Girl Scout and activist basically my entire life, from the Girl Scouts to president of my class, president of the Civics Club, and I have worked for many, many, many different revolutions since I was a teenager. So I've been an activist for quite a few decades now for the Palestinian cause in particular. And I'm, in addition to that, an attorney and a lobbyist. So both out of Washington, D.C., practicing between Paris and Geneva, both Paris, France, and Geneva, Switzerland, where I have two offices. So
Mm,
currently, since 2010, I am one of the co-founders of the Palestine Lobby, which is dedicated to advocating for fundamental rights for the Palestinian people. So we've been around for almost 15 years, the lobby, and it's just been an uphill battle since the beginning, as you can imagine. Lobbying for the Palestinian cause in the United States and in Europe and even around the world is very challenging, considering that we're up against one of the strongest, the American Israeli lobby, one of the strongest lobbies probably around the world that have an unimaginable budget. In fact, their budget is even more important than some small countries in Europe. So we're
mm,
up against a lot. But
mm,
we're trying as much as we can, working on so many different projects. As you can imagine, since October 7th, we have not stopped advocating for a ceasefire. We are advocating all over the globe, but I am heavily focused on the United Kingdom and the United States, both which are proving to be very, very depressing because neither one of them is willing to even consider an actual ceasefire. But there's one
mm,
thing that I want to say today. It's that we need an immediate ceasefire. There is no going forward with the current situation, which is just catastrophic in Gaza. There's no going forward without an actual ceasefire. So thank God we have the South African government. Thank God we have the Malaysians. Thank God we have certain countries. But as it stands, the Palestinians really don't have any allies. We're facing a situation where Israel has the United States, the United Kingdom, all of the EU, some Gulf countries that not only are willing to help them with arms, but they're willing to help them with boots on the ground. And the Palestinians literally have no allies that can help them with arms or boots on the ground. And we're in a situation where the Israelis don't even have the right to self-defense because they're the occupying party. So we're really just finding the Palestinians in a real situation that I think we could describe as a genocide. But no matter how you want to describe it, we're already aware that there's apartheid, that there's oppression, that there's dispossession, and that there is occupation. But all of this needs to be addressed, but nothing can be addressed today until we have an absolute ceasefire. We are losing babies literally by the minute. We're losing children, we're losing women, we're obviously losing men as well. There just aren't many that are left in Gaza, but it's a catastrophic situation, and we need the world to stand up and help the Palestinians to stop the bloodshed. We really do. I'm sorry,
mm.
long
No,
intro.
no, no, that's good. That's good. I think what's interesting for me, particular with this segment that we came up with, is having people who are professionals in whatever sphere that they might be doing as an occupation, as a job, or as a passion, but finding it to marry it with, activism, especially for the people of Palestine. We're going to be speaking to photographers, we're going to be speaking to, teachers and, people all across, the spectrum. I want to focus a bit on you. Was it a conscious decision when you decided that, you want to be an attorney and you want to be an attorney that advocates for the rights of the people of Palestine, or it just came as you were going about, choosing the career path that you chose?
I truly believe that I was chosen by probably Allah to defend the Palestinians, and not just the Palestinians, but to defend human rights in general. So I am not exclusive to the Palestinian cause. It's just that I really feel like it's a very important cause of this century that we need to address in order to address all of the silent genocides that are happening around the world. But the side note is that as a young girl, I was very, very affected by the events in South Africa. And I was, as far as leaders were concerned, I was not obsessed with leaders like President Clinton. I was obsessed with leaders like Nelson Mandela. I knew that there were leaders who were on the right path, and there were leaders who were just pure gangster capitalists, and unfortunately coupled with Zionism. So I've always had kind of this. I've always was drawn to help people. As I told you earlier, I was a brownie and a Girl Scout. I was very young, and I was president of the Girl Scouts. So these are civic societies. I was later president of a very important civic society in the U.S. called Tri-High Y. Um, so I've always very much been involved in civic society and civil duty. It's been kind of my calling. But with the Palestinian cause, remember that, or what's important to note is that my mother was 4 years old. My family is from Nazareth and Safed. My mother was 4 years old when people living inside my family's home that they let in from Poland turned on them at gunpoint and kicked them, forced them out of their homes, and started burning all of the trees under their homes. And as a little girl, much like the scenes that we're seeing today in Gaza, she was 4 years old, walking all the way to Damascus, Syria, with her two sisters and her brother Muhammad, my Khala Muhammad, and my grandparents. So I was born out of trauma. My mother never even wanted children. She only had me, and that was an exception for my grandmother. So this trauma was passed down from my mother. So when I see these little kids, especially these little girls, around the same age, walking from the north to the south of Gaza, barefoot, completely confused, not understanding what's happening, I see that. I see my mother and exactly what happened to her in 1948. So I don't want this to be repeated. And right now, the hardest part about what's happening is that the amount of trauma that is being forced on the Palestinians for the generations to come. I mean, I think it's going to take 100 years to be able to outlive this type of trauma. We're talking about a live genocide, and we can see the pictures before our very own eyes on social media, in television. We have a lot of journalists who are reporting. And I mean, we know that it's extremely shocking. It's shocking for us. We're having a hard time dealing with it, which I think is, I understand. But at the same time, we need to think about our brothers and sisters in Gaza who are basically going to sleep and waking up without anything above their head, no water, no food, no medicine, no aid is getting in, and everyone is aware of it. And as I told Zahira a few months ago, there were more international relief for the last two earthquakes, the last two major earthquakes in the world than there are for the Palestinians right now. So this is just a horrific situation. But yes, it was my calling, and I believe that Allah placed me on this earth to help people, to help the voiceless. And today it's the Palestinians, and I hope that we do find freedom for the Palestinians, and then I will move on to the absolute next group. I feel like I was placed to really help defend the voiceless.
We're going to take a quick break right now, but before we take a break, I'm going to ask you this question. Obviously, you'll answer it when we come back. Being Palestine American almost sounds like an oxymoron, especially with us, what's happening now. When we come back to the break, I want you to maybe make us understand how easy or how difficult it is, or it was, for you to, go on this cause and to actively, advocate for the rights of people of Palestine, having that tag on you that you're Palestinian American. We're going to answer that right after this.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
This Ramadan, spread the love with Sunshine D margarine, the perfect addition to your seri table for spreading, baking, and cooking. Sunshine D is rich in essential vitamin A, E, and D, and is the tastiest way to get their day or night started. Sunshine D. Tastes nice, no lies.
Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the M.A. Motala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Amoti, Imtalumi, Botshabelo, and Castile. Donate your zakat and lillah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076 321 0650, Yusuf Mohammadi 072 259 3457, or the SADN Head Office 031 304 8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050 856 294 for your zakat, or 050 879 790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
Are you looking for a cross-border road transport company that is committed in achieving high safety standards, who is fast and efficient, and also excel in customer service? Gardi Global specializes in cross-border transport from South Africa to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi. Gardi Global, situated at 10 Daniel Road, Benrose, Johannesburg. For inquiries, contact our trained staff on 011 614 3108 or email info@gardiglobal.co.za. Safe long haul into Africa is our business. Gardi Global Transport.
Sponsor an orphan and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Abu Hurairah narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Welcome back to Salam Media. The time is 25 minutes past 8, and you're still tuned in to News and Views with me, Salailo Makwidira, standing in for Zahira. who's out in Cape Town with the rest of the team. They will be interviewing someone very, very special, and I'm sure you'll be getting all the details as soon as they come back to Johannesburg. She'll be joining you again tomorrow. Before we went to the break, we're still chatting to Lina Hadid, who's out in Paris. Before we went to the break, Lina, we were chatting a bit about you being American-Palestine and how that is kind of an oxymoron. How did you navigate that? Where did it ever feel like you are, supposed to choose between, the two identities that make who you are, or you were just, as you said, motivated by you feeling that you were chosen for a certain cause, which is the cause of the Palestinian people?
So, first of all, yes, it's an absolute oxymoron being American-Palestinian and coming from especially the capital of the United States. I would go so far as to say that most of us suffer from multicultural schizophrenia because the US is so far to the West, and Palestine and the culture is very much an Eastern culture. So you grow up you grow up having to completely fit in and conform with the Americans, while at the same time you have cultural morals and ways and values that are very different as a Palestinian. So yeah, it's a completely different, and it's definitely an oxymoron. Remember that the Palestinian Americans only represent 2% of the total Palestinian population worldwide. It was next to impossible for any Palestinians to even get to the United States, and they only really allowed mostly Christians into the West in general, but especially into the United States. They did not allow Muslim brothers and sisters from Palestine. It was rare. My grandfather took a job in Syria in 1950. He was a journalist who had studied law, but he was a journalist. He took a job with the Syrian government, first in 1948, and then in 1950 with the US government, the Voice of America, which is part of the State Department. So he was a government employee. He had 8 children in Syria. So in Palestine, and then 4 in Palestine, 4 more in Syria. So he was never allowed back into Palestine. So he made that option for his family instead of going elsewhere around the world. I think a lot of times I wonder what it would have been like if if the Hadid family had gone to the Middle East or had gone to Africa, Asia, anywhere besides the United States. I think life would have been very different for us. But that was a decision that my grandfather made, and my mother arrived at 16 in the US. So my mother, because she's blonde and blue-eyed and very fair, and she had no problem accessing education, and she accessing the US. But the minute that she opened her mouth and she had an accent, because she had lived in 3 continents before the age of 16 as a Palestinian refugee and diaspora, people were a little racist, because there is a lot of racism, unfortunately, in the United States. When it came to me, because I'm a little bit different looking and I have olive skin, and although I speak and talk and everything else like an American, people would ask about my looks. And when I would explain that I was Palestinian American, they would deny my existence and tell me that Palestine didn't exist, and therefore I could only be American. So that was very tough as a child, because I knew my mother was born in Nazareth, Palestine. I knew my family was Palestinian from Palestine. But yet the Americans refused to allow us even to call ourselves Palestinians. They went so far as to write on my mother's US passport that her place of birth is unknown, even though she was clearly born in Nazareth, Palestine. Pre-1948, in 1944. So this is a psychological warfare already that the Americans are, this is psychological warfare against Palestinian Americans. So it was tough, but that made me want justice even more for the Palestinians. That made me want to fight even harder for the Palestinians. And the Americans, if it were up to them, I would just remain, 100% full-fledged American, pledging allegiance to the American flag every day. I personally could not do that. I felt that I need to represent everyone, not just the Americans. And so I take a little bit of an unbiased approach. I'm happy to be American. I'm proud because it's the only, it's the culture that I was born and raised in. However, I'm deeply, deeply disturbed by the politics in America. And I don't even believe that there are politics. I believe that it's just a few corporations and billionaires that are actually running this country in America, and they all happen to be heavily aligned with Zionism.
Mm, mm.
So it's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And as I'm going through, your bio, there's a a section where it goes how you successfully use digital and traditional media to integrate the rights of Palestinians into discussions and industries such as fashion and luxury goods, as well as art, both of which are global multi-billion-dollar industries. Sometimes it's so difficult to see Palestinians outside of what's happening, seeing them as people, seeing them as, people that have certain talents that can do certain things and contribute to society outside of, the oppression and, the current genocide that's happening. How important is it for us, maybe once in a while, to see Palestinians like every other people in the world and recognize that they can contribute to society like all of us can, and like all of us wish to.
It's very, very difficult. So when, as a Palestinian, and whether you're Palestinian American or Palestinian Parisian, which I feel also I am, or a Palestinian South African, no matter what, there's always that extra. It's extra work being Palestinian. Already, I feel as a woman, it's extra work being a woman because we live in a man's world with men's laws made for men by men. So already I have the challenge of being a woman, but on top of that, it's a triple challenge being Palestinian. It's very strange to come from a culture and to love your culture, but yet you're completely denied access or the right to your own culture. It's very difficult for me not to be able to travel to the Holy Land because I'm banned, because I've been an activist for 3 decades, multiple decades actually. It's very challenging. So I think as a Palestinian, you always kind of feel lost in a strange way. I mean, I know so many Palestinians in diaspora because they're being denied our own right to exist. And then we're kind of being forced into another culture that doesn't necessarily like us. I mean, trust me, if I could go back, I would have advised my grandfather to move to South Africa. I think that it would have been a much nicer experience, from what my very close South African friends tell me, to be in a country that accepts your people, that accepts your culture, that accepts your country, that accepts you as a human being and as an individual. In the US, everyone has to be American. Everyone has to be a gangster capitalist. Everyone has to consume. They're like brainwashed robots, Thinking freely and independently is not something that is encouraged. They prefer that you just move along with the sheep. So it's, challenging.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, with the lobby work that you do, there must be, certain stories that have stuck with you for a very long time. Whether it's from people in Palestine, that have reached out to you for any kind of help, or people that are in the US or anywhere around the world, who want to work, to advocate for the rights of Palestine. Is there that story, that moment that will forever stick with you, and kind of motivated you to continue doing the work that you're doing, and that you'll never forget?
Do I have something that I'll never forget in the lobby? Not something that comes off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I mean, every day is a huge challenge. We have an amazing group of lobbyists that are working with us in the Palestine lobby all over the world. They are literally placed all over the world. Such a wonderful group, and this is a not-for-profit endeavor. So it's really about helping the Palestinians as much as we can and advocating for their rights. I can't think of any turning point. I mean, I think the most important, probably one of the most important events that happened in my career so far was when I was writing my law review article under under the advice of Edward Said at the time, who Ali Yarhamu, who was still alive. And that law review article was about Oslo and the fail, how we failed the Palestinians through Oslo. I was first threatened to be removed from my doctorate program, and they refused to publish the article, even though it was written under Edward Said, and it was quite a good article. I think this type of resistance, I think finding this in an intellectual environment where I'm being told that I'm not allowed to express myself, or that I'm not allowed to put forth a very well part of history that has been documented and analyze it from a different perspective, which is not mainstream American perspective, which is pro-Zionist, obviously. I think this was a big shock for me. And I think that was a decision, that was where I made this fundamental decision in my life, that I was not going to give up on the Palestinians, and that I was not going to back down, and that until, my last breath, I was going to fight for the absolute rights of the Palestinian, and that we were going to stop, we were going to abolish apartheid, abolish the occupation, the oppression, and the dispossession, and finally free the Palestinians in their own country. And I think you, as a South African, can understand this plight and how important it is for us. And I think that probably it was actually that probably pushed me the most. And then as far as the lobby, 2014 was a very, very challenging year for the lobby, because Gaza again was under attack, 50-day siege. And we advocated and fought so hard for the people of Gaza, and we felt that we were completely being defeated by the media, unable to get any information out about what was happening on the ground. And it was very, very depressing. And again, I think every time we get hit really hard in the lobby, it gives us more strength to stand up and fight even harder, because we know that we're going up against this monster, this just gangster capitalism in the West, that have aligned themselves with Zionists and have complete disrespect for human rights. So, we get pushed back a lot, and then we stand back up and we become even stronger. And I think this is what we have to do. Every day is a challenge. And the thing is, I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form. I think when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I think about my sisters and my brothers in occupied Palestine, and that gives me the force to move on. I cry a lot, but I also laugh a lot. Because to keep myself sane, but it's a struggle. Every day is a struggle, but it's nothing compared to what our brothers and sisters are experiencing every day for the last 76 years in their own country, in Palestine. And I think if anyone can empathize with this, it's really the South African community. I think they understand exactly what we're going through. So yeah, that keeps me going. The fact that I'm also very privileged, and I realize that because, not by choice, but, my grandfather made a decision to move to the United States. And that just changed the game for us as Palestinians. So we didn't have to go into the camps. As you know, there are still people living in the camps in Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan from 1948 to present, and they're still in the camps. And the conditions are horrific. Just horrific. So, we were fortunate, but we had to fight, and we had to study, and, myself and all of my cousins, nothing ever came easy for any of us. We all had to work very hard with this huge disadvantage of being Palestinian. So either you mainstream in America and you forget that you're Palestinian and you only act as an American, which a lot of people do, or you fight back and you allow your own culture to exist and to persist.
Mm.
So
No, no, thank you so much, Lina. I think we're going to leave it right there. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you, and getting insight into the work that you do. From us here in South Africa, we recognize people like you. You're a change maker. You advocating for the people of Palestine. Although sometimes I know it's the feeling, even for us here in South Africa, that it feels so far away, and it feels like whatever that we're trying to do, whether it's going out to the streets and protesting, or government going to the ICJ, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's making much of a difference. And you sometimes at the end of the day seeing the numbers, and you feel just defeated and depressed in a lot of ways. But as you said, we have to keep pushing. So thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you, and I hope to catch up with you in a near distant future. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Thank you. And honestly, thank you to everyone, all of the listeners out there. Thank you, South Africa. So much respect on behalf of every single Palestinian. You cannot imagine how lucky and how privileged we feel to have South Africa standing beside us every day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and walaikum salam. Yeah, I think a really, 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 insightful conversation there with Lina Hadid. She's out in Paris, the Palestinian focus, a change maker of note, and doing the work that needs to be done to advocate for the people of Palestine, and right now calling for a ceasefire. Really interesting conversation. If you missed it, you can check it out on our podcasting channels and all our social media channels. Just search for Salam Media, and this conversation will be right there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's Ramadan away from home. We'll be speaking to Zaid Arif, who's out in Kuala Lumpur. He'll be giving us insight on what being a South African feels and looks like during Ramadan when you are not in the country.